I've had a shit day. This isn't a bit. I really have had a terrible day. The air compressor in my car broke, so my car is spewing out magma air in this summer heat. And then my phone had to get upgraded and messed up a bunch of crap. All the apps are messed up. The phone number's wrong. Had to be on the phone with my phone provider for like hours. I have to go to the DMV because the registration of my car's expired. I didn't realize it. Ah! Hey, if you want to help a friend out, subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/MatthewDonald. There you can find bonus content for Paleobites, like where we discuss pop culture featuring prehistoric animals. This month we're talking about Walking with Dinosaurs. Yeah! The classic 1999 BBC documentary. Classic. I said classic twice. It's because I've had a crap day. My brain is just spaghetti and ants. Trying to turn these turd nuggets into gold nuggets, or however the saying goes. So subscribe to my Patreon. Link is in the description. Thank you for your support. Have a good day. Certainly a better day than I have!
Roar, growl, snarl, bellow.
Welcome to Paleobites, the podcast that puts the mojo in Mojoceratops. Not that anyone asked or cared. My name's Matthew Donald, and each week on a rotating series of guest co-hosts talk about and rate a genus of prehistoric animal, be it dinosaur, mammal, arthropod, and so on. This week I'm joined by someone who also puts the mojo in like a mojo dojo. It's been O'Regan. How are you?
Ready to ride. Ooh, me no sound like Yoda, do I? Ooh, sorry.
Yes. I've got an orc peon here, or an orc grunt. You go back and forth.
But the first quote was Rough Rider, or whatever you call their, the
Raider.
The wolf guys, yeah. I haven't played it in ages.
I know, I have good memories of them. I like the Raiders. It's like, good dog. What's that smell? Oh, bad dog. And Raiders were also cool because, like, you could research technology that could give them, you could get gold by them hitting buildings.
Oh, that was true. That was a very useful tactic because you could drain your enemy's economy and build yours up for no effort if you just kept harassing them.
Exactly. Just use a bunch of Raiders, yeah. Or just do a couple hits and then retreat. Yeah, good stuff. Shame what happened to Warcraft 3 and Blizzard, but Stormgate's on the way, and we'll see if it does well.
As long as it doesn't have a damn 12-unit selection limit, even StarCraft 2 got rid of that.
I know, StarCraft 2 got rid of that. I actually quite like... Did you ever play the StarCraft 2 co-op stuff?
No.
Because that was incredible. The StarCraft 2 co-op is great. It's like multiplayer, but only with one other person, and your guys are fighting together against AI, and you have individual commanders that are like part of like the civilizations, but not all of it. So you have like Rainer, or Swan, or Kerrigan, or Abathur, or Zagara, or...
so taking a bit from Warcraft's different types of hero.
Yeah. But, like, some of them you had the hero on your screen. Other times it was just different ability. Like, because, like, Rainer, like, he just got the Marines and siege tanks and battle cruisers and other stuff like that. While Swan just got, like, Goliaths and siege tanks and all the mechanical units. Like,
so each player could fulfill a certain role without having to choose to take that role, so to speak.
Right, yeah. So, like, it was pretty cool, and, like, you could level them up as you kept going, getting new abilities, other stuff. Yeah, and some of them were really, really clever. Like, Tychus was one, and all you had your SCVs, and then you had Tychus, and you had some mercenaries, and those were your only units. And
Tychus, he was Rainer's friend who was stuck in the suit, eh?
Yes.
Yeah,
and then,
so. I really hate the fact that they, like, it's not really a spoiler now, given it's a 10-year-old game, but that they had to kill him off. But I'm pretty sure from the look in his face where he apologizes to Rainer at the end, the fact that he was
kind of doing a suicide by cop in a way.
Yeah, I think he missed, like he deliberately missed his rifle shot so Jim could be with
Rainer
Kerrigan.
could kill him rather than what's his name?
God,
rather
that
than
is just a great example of what prick Minsk was.
Minsk was...
He was petty when he didn't have to be. Rainer never even betrayed him.
I know. Let's see, okay, so I'm going to segue into this. I feel like Thrinax could be a good Protoss name, and we're talking about Thrinaxodon.
Don't know how we started talking about StarCraft. Sorry, people.
It's because we were like, so we were talking about Warcraft first. We're talking about the Trident tooth itself, Thrinaxodon. It's a cynodont, a clade of therapsid animals originating from the early Permian and flourishing for millions of years onwards. Mammals
Very
are
close relatives of ours compared to other reptiles.
Well, actually, mammals are still technically cynodonts. You and I are technically considered cynodonts, like from a taxonomical standpoint.
Yeah, and that means we're all technically still fish and then still bacteria even.
Right. Or we're all
just the way cladistics work.
We're all stegocephalians, or what are other ones like that, where it's just like... It's like how birds are simultaneously birds and reptiles. They're simultaneously in the class Avis and the class Reptilia.
And because the split between Dinosauria from reptiles into aves, or the bits that become birds, is not clear-cut at all. It's basically just a convenient distinction between like what we have now and the big scaly buggers.
Right, exactly. Alright, so this was about fox size, so 18 to 25 inches long, 46 to 64 centimeters long, or 22 to 33 pounds, or 10 to 15 kilograms. It was a carnivore.
Featured in Walking with Dinosaurs, where they just called it Cynodont.
Yeah, I know, because I think it was modeled after Thrinaxodon, even though this would have been far later. Than when it actually lived, because like this, it was a carnivore like in that, but it lived in the early Triassic, 251 to 247 million years ago. So, but it also lived in South Africa and Antarctica rather than Arizona. It probably had to share space with all those damn Lystrosaurus.
I don't think it was wrong of them to, because Walking with Dinosaurs, especially like the episodes of Fauna Fauna, where they had Utahraptors in Europe and that were all over the place.
Right.
It was
well,
like
they had Plateosaurus at the end there.
Spectacle over things. Yeah. But point being, even the late Triassic, Pangaea was still one continent, so you could get global distribution.
Right, but even then, though, I'm not sure that like they would walk that far. I mean, some of them might have, but like at the end, the Plateosaurus come in to herald the arrival of the dinosaurs, and that was clearly meant to like be that way. But like, even though they're from Europe and not from Arizona, although I could buy bigger sauropods like that coming over, like migrating maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I love the irony now that just as we now know that Walking with Dinosaurs got it wrong with the pterosaurs where they weren't on their way out, the fossil record's just poor. But as we know about Asdarchids and all that, but it seemed to indicate like the dinosaurs were superior to the other animals taking over, and as we now know, dinosaurs just got lucky. They just had some adaptation or other that allowed them to pull through the Jurassic extinction where some of their relatives
like the other
didn't.
ones, like the Rausuchids and the cynodonts, and other stuff like that.
Although I wouldn't be surprised if some Rausuchids did pull through and then like were dead clade walking for a bit. Like what happens in the Eocene and that, where the quite a few multibuculates pull through and then they gradually taper off in the face of marsupials and placentinals.
Exactly. There was a good showing of that in Prehistoric Planet Season 2 that just came out on Apple.
I can't see that because I don't have Amazon or whatever it's on.
It's on Apple Plus, which sucks. I could barely use it. But anyways, they have a scene where like a little mammal is like, I think it's some sort of Madagascar mammal, I forget. But like it's going after some eggs, and they think it's going to eat the eggs, but it's revealed it's his own eggs, because this is back when mammals, just laid eggs. Like not as like monotremes, but this is just before they had
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool to see these little furry things come out of eggs. Like
So,
I guess it probably would have been naked.
It seems like it's setting up a case of mistaken identity a bit later. Everyone assumed Oviraptor was an egg robber, and it turns out the famous fossil died over its own nest.
Right. I like how we just assume it was hiding some other eggs. Like, we just knew it was a predator. But, like, nah, it was actually a good mother. Although, speaking of fossils with, like, that we... we'll have one to talk about Thrinaxodon here, but real quick, though. Pop culture appearances, it's in both Walking with Monsters and Walking with Dinosaurs. Although Walking with Monsters, it's called a Therocephalian, which is a close relative, but it's kind of the same model.
Yeah, they did a lot of that, like quite a few of the pterosaur models later on in Walking with Dinosaurs are recycled Ornithochirus one with some modifications.
Right, and like the and in like the back they called it Anatotitan, but it was really Edmontosaurus. You can tell it was a modified iguanodon model because as much as I'd like it to, the Edmontosaurus did not have that thick of forearms. That was iguanodon.
God, does it make a bizarre noise? Was like,
right.
Like as you hear the T-Rex crush it.
I was like,
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, that thing's so annoying sounding, I'm glad it got eaten.
It's so annoying sounding, so it should die.
Yeah. It's a bit like, I don't like people being casually cruel to animals without a reason, like if you're being attacked, obviously hit the animal to get it off you. But, like, it's a bit like when you get that annoying sparrow hovering around and you just want to chuck something at it so that it bugs off. You don't want to hurt it, you just want it to, like,
leave
you alone.
Shut up.
Like, when you got or more relatable, when you got a fly buzzing around, you don't want to get the fly spray because it's not worth the hassle half the time. But you've still got the thing buzzing around, it's like, piss off!
Alright, so, it's also in the documentary Ancient Earth, whatever that is. But, alright, so...
Dr. What?
The cynodont, like the Thrinaxodon, because this is what they based Walking with Dinosaurs on. But it looks like what in real life, in the formation that took place in, which was the Chinle Formation in late Triassic, Western North America. There are some fossils there that have been historically attributed to cynodonts. They're mostly just isolated teeth, though.
Waste basset Texan like Megalosaurus and Iguanodon.
Right. There's one particular find, which is several teeth and two ischia, whatever, E-I-S-C-H-I-A. This is how you know this is not a professional paleontological podcast, because I have no idea what that is. They've been found...
I don't even have any idea what you just said.
They were attributed to a Thrinaxodon-like cynodont in a paper from 1994, which is presumably what this was based off of. So, it turns out, though, in 2020, we finally have a proper cynodont from the formation, although it was much, much smaller, called Catygidon. So there were cynodonts in the area, and there could have been one the size of Thrinaxodon. But,
and a bit of interesting trivia for Thrinaxodon, so we've got more to add. There is a famous, if I recall, it's just something I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, they found evidence of one that had died sharing a burrow with a Brumastega,
yes,
amphibian.
Yes, I was going to talk about this too. So, like, the injured temnospondyle Brumastega. The burrow was scanned using a synchrotron, a tool used to observe the contents of the burrows in this experiment and not damage the intact specimens. And it showed that the Brumastega was injured, but not from the Thrinaxodon. It was from another carnivore, because the differences between the perforations was measured in relation to the distance of the canines of Thrinaxodon, and no such relation was found. So, basically, we see the temnospondyle found refuge in the burrow after a traumatic experience, and the Thrinaxodon allowed it to stay in its burrow until they both ultimately met their respective deaths. That's interesting and sad. But sweet.
I mean,
it's sweet.
You get it with some cases in some of our offshore islands where we have most of the tuatara population to keep them safe from predators that were introduced.
I know.
They often share burrows with, like, the seagulls and albatross, or just various seabirds. Like, the tuatara will occasionally eat their eggs and stuff like that, which isn't good for the bird, but for the most part, the birds don't mind them because they eat pest, and in return, the tuataras get food because the bird that builds up attracts, like, bugs that come to feed on it and stuff.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so peek behind the curtain, listeners. This is the second time I've tried to record this episode. But the last time I tried to record this episode, I was going to tell you this story. I think I might have told you this story. But so if it sounds familiar to you, that's why. But I'm going to tell you the story again because I think this is such a good story that's in relation to this. So 20 years ago, where I live in Colorado, there was a giant blizzard. A giant blizzard. One of the biggest I've ever seen. Two fronts just slammed into each other and then created a bunch of snow. Like, we're talking like 5 or 6 feet. And just before this blizzard, my mom read this in the newspaper. Who knows if this is a true story, but it sounds neat. A family's cockatoo got loose and flew off just before the blizzard hit. And so when the blizzard hit, they were like, oh, God, it's dead for sure. Like, there's no way it would have survived out there. But then a month later, as the snow was starting to melt, they found it. It was alive and in somewhat good condition. And so they brought it back, and it was the same one. It recognized its owners. It was very happy to see its owners. It was very, very happy to be home and safe. But it had...
Where'd it gone?
It had they didn't know for sure until they realized it had a new ability that it could never do before. It could quack.
So the cockatoo...
A bunch of ducks must have... Ducks, like, I don't know what ducks do during blizzards, but I'm assuming they probably... I don't know if they have burrows, but they have some sort of shelter that they probably were huddling it together, and they just let this cockatoo be in there with them. It's so sweet.
That dormant quacks.
I know, the cockatoo's like... The cockatoo's like... Arr, 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 arr. Well, look, that was more like a seal, but that's what the kind of noises they make, though. Isn't that a nice story?
It's a funny story, that's for sure.
I know, I just imagine, like, why do we have racism when these birds that can bring in this bird that's clearly not native to this land and give it into shelter with them? Like... So that's kind of what was going on here, I think. Although, except this one had a happy ending. So...
Yeah, the start of it sounded familiar. I don't think you got that far in because of the recording cut out.
Yeah, you were acting like you didn't hear the end of that story, so I guess I wasn't able to finish it last time. But yeah, so so that has a happy ending. But the Thrinaxodon and the Brumastega did not. Although I did also, there's a similar fossil that they found recently of Psittacosaurus, a slightly older Psittacosaurus, not an adult but a subadult. Alongside
I think I remember sharing this.
Huddled along with a bunch of baby Psittacosaurus. And looking at the fossils, they found that it was not a parent, but a sibling. It was taking care of its brothers and sisters, during like a sandstorm or something, and they all just died together. Well, that's kind of sad.
Nature, you evil. If I recall, Psittacosaurus is the early ceratopsid with the quills.
Yes, the quills on the back and like hardly any frill. It's more like just a boxy head than a frill. Like,
yeah, I thought so. And it's bipedal.
Very successful. It lived for like 25 million years and was very, very commonly found. That was a very successful dinosaur.
Well, that's a long time zone. I mean, when you look at something like Styracosaurus, and it didn't even make 500,000 years.
Yeah, I know. So, pretty cool.
Mind you, they might just be
that's
fossil
just the record we
bias
found.
and why they live longer.
Yeah. Anyways, Thrinaxodon. So that there's a lot of cool fossils of them of like that, and then Thrinaxodon is like that too. So yeah, like we said earlier, this was a cynodont. It was a relative of mammals, probably not an ancestor of mammals. This was a separate sort of thing.
But closely related.
This isn't our grandfather. This is more like our uncle. Because it's not our direct ancestor. I'm fairly sure. So.
Oh, this be your Uncle Stinky the York, and you're gonna fall.
Oh, what's that smell? Oh, bad dog or bad cynodont.
Don't make Phil angry. Phil turn you into lightning bolt.
Yes, I'm very immature.
Why do you command an army instead of touching me? Poke, poke, poke. Is that all you do? Ooh, that was kind of nice.
No, I'm just picturing Yoda harassing Palpatine.
I mean, he did in Revenge of the Sith, but not in that way.
No, but in a trolling manner, like he turns him
just like poking him with his staff.
At me. You're not doing anything. I'm just gonna hit you with lightsaber.
So yeah, Thrinaxodon was in a group separate from. So like so it's a cynodont, but separate from the Eocynodonts, which are the
mammal
ones
line
that evolved into us. So it split up.
Yeah, just like monotremes are on a separate branch of the modern mammal branch.
It's a similar
marsupials
branch.
And placentals
like we're both epicynodonts, but we're not eocynodonts. So whatever that means. So, but like so there's some interesting cynodonts that lived back then. Interesting synapsids. There was one called Lysowischia that I need to do an episode on. It was the biggest one that was the size of an Asian elephant.
Ooh.
So it was like imagine Placerias from that Walking with Dinosaurs episode, but instead of it being the size of a
jumbo size.
Yeah, besides it being the size of a cow, imagine it the size of an elephant.
So bring me a sledgehammer. We've got a stupid animal to kill.
Of course.
No, not really.
No,
I do think that Placerius and Lystrosaur type synapsids, they just look stupid.
They do look stupid. We clearly had a long way to go. Also, on that note, you haven't seen 65 yet, have you?
The Adam Driver one?
Yeah, the one that just came out this year. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it, but I know how it ends. It's he kills the dinosaurs.
Well, sort of. I mean, he escapes from the meteor that comes in. But there is a giant four-legged theropod in it that a lot of people are like, oh, this just made it up. It's actually revealed what species it was. It wasn't from 65 billion years ago. It was from around this time. It was Ryosuchian called Phaseolasuchus.
What the heck was it doing in the Cretaceous?
I don't know. They also had Lagosuchus there, like those four-legged little lizard things. Those were Lagosuchus that are also from the Triassic. They just had whatever. It's a movie. Who cares? I'm not one of those people that's like like, because they also, like, there was one point where they were at the beach and there were these pterosaurs and they were clearly Sungaripterus, that one with the big crest. But they had the eyes in the nostrils, where the nostrils should be. And I'm at the point where, like, if you know what the species looks like, to the point where you have a very good depiction of it, other than that exact big detail, you're doing that detail wrong on purpose. Like, that was meant to make it look more monstrous. And honestly, I don't mind. So...
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that super uptight about dinosaur depictions, because it took me ages to come around to liking feathered depictions, even though I knew they were more accurate. But it's just like, that movie doesn't really sound like my cup of tea.
Oh, no, I get it. Fair enough.
I tend not to be too bothered by misplaced dinosaurs and like geography and time-wise, since Walking with Dinosaurs made that mistake too quite a bit.
Right, but Walking with Dinosaurs, I feel like they weren't doing it for no reason, except for maybe the Utah raptor.
Yeah, yeah, it was spectacle and to bring attention to various species. Plus, some of it was like cases of where we're dating wasn't quite precise, or wastebasket text.
Right, because like the Thrinaxodon was based off like finds that they found in that area from 1994, so that weren't quite finished. Sort of like the polar allosaur was based on fragmentary remains that were later on revealed to be Australopithecus. Yeah. So,
like I said, I'm not too fussed about things,
but like when it's
I do
a movie,
expect a little bit of consistency. So that movie probably doesn't sound like my cup of tea.
I get it.
Jurassic Park, they're not pure dinosaurs; they've all been altered, and they're also clones. So
for me,
time-wise, it doesn't matter. And the Land Before Time, obviously, is a kids' movie. It's not even supposed to be the real past, so who cares?
Right. See, like, for me, like, it's like, if it's a documentary, I want it to be as accurate as up-to-date findings have allowed. But if it's a movie, go ham. I don't care. Like, people are like, oh, but it is damaging to the image of paleontology. I'm like, astronomers don't care about how unfactual Star Wars is. They don't think Star Wars is an affront to astronomy, like, even though it's clearly inaccurate.
But then Star Wars does open up with the whole a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Which is meant to be like long ago in a kingdom far, far away kind of sort of thing, yeah. So, once upon a time in a kingdom far away, or something. But yeah. Anyways, Thrinaxodon, I don't know, I'm trying to think what else there is to say about it, other than, like, it's just basically watch the Walking with Dinosaurs episode. Other than the fact that, like, it killed its own young, that was sad. But it probably could have done that, I don't know. If it needed to move.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised. Nature is brutal.
Yeah, that's the thing, because, like, I think I might mention this last time we recorded, and I didn't get around to it. But, like, I think Walking with Dinosaurs went a bit too far in showing how cruel nature was. I think the later Walking Withs did it a bit better.
Like, Walking with Beast wasn't quite as brutal.
No, but, like, except for the poor bird getting eaten by ants. That was horrifying. Like, so...
I thought the bird looked so ugly I didn't really care.
Oh, I cared, because I love birds, and that bird was just a little baby. It was got eaten by ants.
So do I. And, like, if it had been a more convincing puppet, I probably wouldn't mind it.
I couldn't disassociate it with my bird from it enough for me to not be sad about it. But
fair enough.
Anyways, but prehistoric planet, conversely, I think is a bit too sanitized. It's not cruel enough. I think there needs to be a balance, because, like there's sometimes like babies get eaten and other stuff like that, but it's usually not like it's not shown on too much, and usually most of the time
discretion shots and stuff.
Usually most of the time what happens is that there's a predator and like it's chased, like there's like a big predator and then the little prey escapes with the big predator, but then the big predator's like, oh, it's starving and needs to eat, and like so you feel sorry for the big predator, but then rather than thinking, oh god, like they have to eat the little cute prey, what happens is that a smaller predator goes after the little prey, and then the big predator eats the smaller predator. So everyone wins.
Sort of like King Kong syndrome, like where the croc thing starts chasing Anne, and then the V-Rex comes down and snaps it out of the log.
It's always a bigger fish mentality. Like, speaking of Star Wars.
And then she waits and has to run out because a giant centipede or millipede or whatever puts its feeler down.
That thing did that. There's two of them trick 3 times in short succession. So, like...
Well, it was pretty strongly implied it was a family unit, like a mated male and a female and the young.
I think it was a mother, father, and son, I think is what it's supposed to be. But
and then Monkey killed them.
I think they were the last ones, too.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Alright, well, let's rate Thrinaxodon 1 out of 65 million. I'm going to rate like a 26 million. Like, it's kind of neat to see a little mammal-like creature alongside the early dinosaurs. It probably had hair, too, which is kind of cool to think about. Probably not too much. But
I'll probably
I think it's
rate it
what are you gonna
1
rate
million because boring animal, like in a Walking with Dinosaurs context, not in so much in a paleontological context. But the only thing I've really seen it in, it was a boring edition. As I wanted to see more of the
in the when it was in Walking with Monsters, they gave it venom.
True that. I just wanted to see more of the Coelophysis and the what's it called?
Postosuchus.
Postosuchus, yes.
In the book, the Postosuchus and the Plateosaurus fight. When was that? What they should have shown that. Two titans fighting like that.
Yes, they should have.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that's it for this week. If you want to get a little show, you can contact me at paleobitespodcast@gmail.com or paleobitespod@twitter.com. Yes, Twitter. It's not X. I refuse. And also at paleobitespodcast on Instagram. If you want to send me or any of the questions to relate to the coast, like Ben here, you can. I also have a book series on Amazon, Megazoic, available for printing Kindle. No Thrinaxodon, and it's far too early for it to be part of the thing. But yeah, that's it for this week. Just see you at the end of every episode of Paleobites. Zup zup.
Dabu.
So cool. Why are you poking me again?
I poke you because I have mouse.
It's not easy being green.